For the last 2 weeks, I've been writing a new short story every single day, and I've published them on my new Substack, which you can find at fatherroderick.substack.com. And I figured maybe it's fun to read one of those stories to you, and this story is very, very personal to me. It is inspired by a song that went viral on TikTok. It's called The Ballad of Phil and Phyllis. There is a link to that song in the show notes. It's a song about loss, about permanence. It's bittersweet, but there's also hope at the end. It's an incredible, incredible song. And I am a fan like thousands and thousands of other people. And it was originally conceived as just a joke, it was just a very short song, a part of a fictional musical. But now everybody is so enthusiastic about this song that they want the full musical, they want the full story, but there is no musical, there is no full story. And so I decided to write it as an homage to the Ballad of Phil and Phyllis. Here it goes. Long ago, in the heart of a snow-capped Pennsylvanian town where tradition stood taller than the trees, there lived a groundhog named Phil. Each year, as the town held its breath, Phil would emerge from his burrow to read the omens of spring. His shadow held the verdict: 6 more weeks of winter or the long-awaited thaw. But one year, something changed. A man wearing a long black coat and a top hat, a caretaker of the inner circle, knelt beside Phil's burrow and offered him a vial. "A gift," he whispered, "to keep the legend alive." Phil drank, and from that day on, he never died. He also never left February 2nd. At first, it wasn't so bad. The same day meant no surprises, no danger. Phil relished the applause, the camera flashes, the attention. Every day was his moment in the spotlight. But the applause grew stale. No matter what he did, the people forgot by sundown. The next morning, it began again. He'd greet the same mayor, face the same crowd, eat the same apple core. Worse, every time he declared the end of winter, the sun would appear, the snow would melt, and birds would sing, and yet the next morning, winter returned. Hope faded, so Phil stopped appearing. One morning, curled in the chill of his burrow, he smelled something new, something warm and wild. It wasn't snow. It was flowers, honey, sunshine. It was her. Phyllis stood at the threshold of his den, fur golden like a sunbeam. Her eyes sparkled with spring. Her nose twitched with curiosity. Phil blinked, confused. Nothing new ever happened. Not anymore. "Hello," she said. He didn't answer. Not at first. Maybe she was a dream, a trick of the loop. But she returned the next morning, and the next. She remembered things. She laughed at his jokes from yesterday, asked about places they'd visited, held his paw with familiarity, not awkwardness, and slowly Phil began to live again. They explored the town, built a burrow together. He told her the names of the townsfolk, the quirks of the weather, the stories behind the odd little shops. She marveled at it all, like it was new, because to her it was. The burrow stayed. Everything they built in love resisted the reset. A small miracle in the loop. One night, as they curled up at the edge of their burrow to watch the sun bleed into the horizon, something unspoken tugged at him. The sky blushed with the colors of spring, peach, amber, apricot. Phil turned to her, his voice barely a whisper. "Hold me, Phyllis. Hold me like an apricot. She blinked and laughed, a sound like wind chimes in sunlit trees. Juicy and sweet? Fragile, he said, like something that bruises easy. She said nothing. She just held him tighter. The next morning, Phil mentioned the sunset they'd watched together. Phyllis tilted her head. Sunset? A chill deeper than any snowstorm settled in his chest. The next day, she forgot again, then again, until the memories they'd shared slipped from her one by one. But she smiled through it. Let's make new memories, she said. He didn't want new ones. He wanted theirs. And then came the song, a duet of farewell and forever, of fleeting time and love that lingers. He told her he'd trade his fame, the cameras, even immortality, just to keep her. And she answered with a secret. She told him she was pregnant. A new life, a future, proof that time hadn't stopped entirely. He watched over her as she grew weaker. And on the morning their 2 pups were born, Phyllis closed her eyes and never opened them again. Phil wept. He curled around the newborns, willing the morning to take them away, to reset him to loneliness so he could forget. But when he awoke the next day, he heard tiny squeaks, little paws. They were still there. Phil stepped out of the burrow. No crowds, no cameras, no mare, just warmth. The snow was melting. The sky smelled of new rain. The wind whispered promises instead of looping echoes. It wasn't Groundhog Day anymore. It was tomorrow. Phil raised his children with stories of Phyllis, her laughter, her courage, the way she held his paw when the world froze over. Each year, on February the 2nd, he emerged not to see his shadow, but hers. Etched in the smile of his daughter, the tenacity of his son. The burrows they built stayed, and so did love. Because, while nothing is supposed to live forever, some things do. I hope you like this.